Good evening. There we go. Good evening. Welcome to the April 3rd Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session. I am Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller, and we will start this evening with our invocation from the Right Honorable Stephen J. Callis, Senior Pastor at First Church of the Nazarene. So please stand.
Good evening, folks. Always glad to see you guys, and thank you for your dedicated service. We appreciate it. You know, Easter's just around the corner. Y'all excited? Easter, its message declares the power of God. It is a message of hope that God's power over sin, His power over the grave, His power over our failures and frustrations. And He is the God that we call on tonight. And we ask Him to preside over us as we do the business of our city. Thank you again for your service. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege tonight to gather once again to take care of the concerns of our community. And I thank you for these, our leaders, and pray your continued blessing and wisdom for them. And Father, I pray that through tonight's session, especially, as issues are brought up and comments are made, I pray that, Lord, you would be over it all, and that we would find in you not only the wisdom for this hour, but that we would always seek and find our hope in you. We make our prayer in the name of Jesus, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilman Estes, for the Pledge of Allegiance, and thank you, Reverend Stephen Callis, for the invocation. All right, before we begin, we will go over some protocol items for this evening's events. This is the work session where agenda items are presented for discussion and no official action will be taken tonight. That will occur on Monday, on April 7th. It's at our 6 o'clock meeting. If the business you are here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be an ample time under the agenda items comments from citizens and delegates to discuss your business. Some things that you need to be aware of before the start of the meeting. We will please, if you do speak, we'll ask that your comments and presentation is on a professional level, dealing with facts that are important for this governing body to make their decision. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. You will receive a warning from the chair, and if you deviate from this requirement, a second deviation will result in a request that you leave the chambers and premises for the evening. Only one person will be talking at a time. Please do not applaud or react to speakers. Speak from the audience chair. Carry on a conversation with others in the audience or disrupt the order of the meeting in any way, shape, or form. We're reminded that we are only required to accept public comment during required public hearings. We are not required to accept public comment on other items before the council. We will accept the public comment on all items because it enables us to make better decisions, however. If you have a cell phone or other electronic device, please power that off or put it into silent mode at this time, or answer it outside. That would be preferable. Agenda items will be handled as follows. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item, then the person representing the agenda item or the applicant will make his or her presentation first, and that will be the only opportunity for you to present information. Mayor or members of council Mayor Pro Tem or members of council may ask questions of the applicant or seek additional information. After that, the committee chair will ask for comments or statements from the audience. There's a maximum time limit of 20 minutes for those who speak in favor or in opposition to the agenda item. The applicant's presentation is included in this time allotment. Each speaker is individually limited to 5 minutes. Please, by the way, fill out a speaker card. They're located on the table outside the room, and then hand it to our clerk on my right, your left. Prior to approaching the, you can do that prior to approaching the podium when you speak. At the podium, please state your name and address for the record. State whether you're in favor or against the item. Each person has one opportunity to comment on each agenda item. No reappearances. If you think of something later or forgot or did not say it initially, there's no takebacks. Sorry. This is not a question and answer format, even though it sometimes devolves into that. It's not a debate format. Please, this gives you an opportunity to make a public comment on the respective agenda item. Address your comments to the chair, not to members of the audience or to the applicant or city staff. If your information is repetitive of the information presented earlier in this meeting or any other meetings on the matter, there's no need to present the same information again, and we will request that you move on from that point. Our policy is that if you have printed information that is to be used on the agenda, referencing the agenda item, please submit that either in advance to the city clerk office or please give it to the clerk at this time. We've allowed that. Do not pass it out to members of council or distribute it in the audience from here. Okay, that's the protocol. From there, we will move on to our agenda. And our first committee is the Economic and Development Committee, and our vice chair for that is Councilwoman Nicole Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business this evening in economic development.
Thank you, Councilwoman Miller. Our next committee is the Finance Committee that is chaired by Mr. Chris Watts.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have several items tonight. Item A is to authorize the mayor to sign Amendment 3 to the agreement with Goodwin Mills Kaywood LLC for the City Hall Construction Project Architecture Services in the amount not to exceed $1,607,987.50 to be paid from SPLOST 2022 Facilities Fund. Steve and Mr. Adams. Jacob.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. Jacob Adams, 4150 Ashford Dunwoody Road, Brookhaven, Georgia. We understand, based on the previous meeting, that there was some questions regarding the fee breakdown for GMC's contract agreement. We wanted to provide a more clear view that showed the fee breakdown and how the contingencies would be spread out among the project as well as the additional services. We worked with city staff and GMC to provide a format that we believe shows the fee breakdown adequately as well as the additional service and the contingencies. So if you look at the PDF attachment, you'll see the $15 million construction budget. The 7% baseline design fee is reflected below in the $1,050,000 cost. That is strictly the base design fee, that 7% number. Below that, you'll see the breakdown of the additional services. This is typical within most design architect agreements. This is their basic general service agreement, additional fee for the landscape architect, civil site engineering, interior design, AV design, which is outsourced outside of GMC. We highly recommend that this is incorporated into their scope of work to provide a full AV design package, the environmental design, and then their reimbursable expenses for a subtotal design fee of $1.2 million, $227,250. Outside of that is the construction material testing and supplemental services fees. These fees are typically outsourced by a third-party vendor, but GMC is able to provide these services in-house for a lower market rate than is typical when you would outsource it from a third-party source. This is kept separate due to clarifying and breaking out and showing what is directly under GMC's contract versus what would be technically a supplemental service to their initial agreement. The subtotal of those fees is added up below, and taken out is the 15% contingency from those two subtotal amounts. That's where the $1.6 million comes into play, is from the two subtotal design fee and the total of supplemental services, along with the 15% contingency that's pulled from the subtotal of those two agreements. That's what equals out to the $1.6 million fee. We reviewed this with GMC as well as city staff, and we believe that is our recommendation to proceed forward with the approval of this fee. We believe that is a reasonable fee, what we've seen across the board through the market, and authorization of it will allow us to proceed and move into design as soon as approval is granted.
Do we have any questions or comments, Council? Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question to clarify. Your AE fee does include construction administration as part of the, you're not separating that out? No, there's no hourly fees under that?
anything else?
So I gotta just confirm with Jim, we had, CA is not.
CA is included.
It is, that's in the 7% fee, right? Yeah, so
Yep.
it is included, sorry, Mayor Pro Tem, I had to
one.
recall. So Jim Teal from GMC is here with us,
He can speak
just
for
in case
himself
we
if
had
he'd
a
like.
question. So, thank you.
Would you like to, have anything to say?
You did great. No, answer any questions.
No, that's all I needed to be clarified.
Yes, sir. Any other questions from council? No? All right. Well, we have several council members missing tonight, and Madam Mayor. And so thank you for that report, and I'm just, we'll take this up on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Item B, authorize the mayor to sign a purchase and sale agreement between the city of Douglasville, Georgia as purchaser and Cedar Mountain Farms LLC as seller for real property being 155 acres located in land lot 231, section 5, District 2, Douglas County, commonly known as 1745 Wortham Road, Douglasville, Georgia, 30134, for the purpose of constructing a police driving training course with a purchase price of $2,712,500 to be funded from SPOS 2022 as provided in the Mayor and Council 2024 goals. And Ms. Hampton will handle this item.
All right. The item for, sorry about that, let me pull this up. My screen went blank. The item for the purchase of the land is related to the driving course that the city of Douglasville decided to do as a part of one of its goals to enhance safety and liability within our police department. As far as the use of the facility, the police chief will be able to give you more details, but this is our first step into moving forward with the project to build a driver facility for our police department.
Thank you, Ms. Hampton. Chief Sparks?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to make any comments on this item?
Well, this site will enable the police department to do training as it relates to driving our vehicles, because right now we have a hard time finding areas to train, especially when it relates to our pit maneuvers. We used to go to Six Flags and they stopped us from coming to Six Flags, so this is a way that we can get our men and women trained, and also we can train other law enforcement agencies around this area to come to our facility and train as well. Also, it can help with other drivers of city vehicles that's driving the city vehicles, and we can give them some training and different type of tactics, bagging and things of that nature, try to slow down some of the small accidents that we do have.
Thank you, Chief. Also, would it potentially down the road be available for younger drivers?
Yes, we can open up a training session for our young citizens here in Douglasville. I know when I went to high school, it was a long time ago, but they had a driver training course down at Douglas County High School.
Yeah.
You know, and you just don't have that anymore, you know. So we can open it up for our young citizens as well, to get them some training in the area of off-road, how, you know, a lot of time people, they run off the road and they jake the steering wheel and they
Overcomes.
Yes, sir. So, you know, so we can train them in those areas, and cut down some of these bad accidents that we're having.
Not to mention parents out there listening, I think it helps on your insurance rates.
Yes, sir.
So, anyway, that's not the reason we're building it. There's
Right.
lots of reasons we want to do it. It'll be, where's the closest driving facility like this one that area Metro Atlanta police departments can use? And it's fairly limited, isn't it? There's not that.
It's very limited. Sometime we go down to Forsyth, Georgia. Carrollton has a small place. It's not anything like we're trying to do. It's just a big parking lot. It is not, you really can't get the full training that you need, but they make that available to us. And like I said, Six Flags had a place, and
Yes, sir.
they shut us down. Cobb has a little place, but that's why we want to be the
Yes, sir.
first to get it done.
Okay, thank you, Chief Sparks. Any questions or comments from council? Yes, Councilwoman Hudson.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. A few quick questions and a comment. Chief, my daddy actually taught me to drive at Douglas County High School. So I thought that was funny. So quick question for the city manager. You mentioned that this was being funded by the 2022 SPLOST, and this would fall under the facilities criteria for that SPLOST?
Actually, public safety.
Okay, yes,
public
ma'am.
safety
And so
section.
that the voters voted on those categories to be funded through our SPLOST?
Yes, ma'am. You listed a list of projects to build the funding source for, and this was one of those projects.
Okay, excellent. And then, thank you for that. And then Chief, back to you. You had mentioned, I think, in another discussion with us that the other municipalities would be able to use this for a fee. And so we will be able to generate some revenue from that. Of course, it'll be primarily for our officers, but we'll be able to kind of utilize that as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. I yield, Chair.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. All right, thank you for all of that, Ms. Hampton and Chief Sparks. We'll take that up on Monday. Item C. Authorize the mayor to sign change order number 21 with Reeves Young LLC in the amount of $173,251.82 to be paid from ARPA funds for clearing and grubbing of approximately 1.5 acres north of the football field over Jesse Davis Park, erosion control and security fencing at Jesse Davis Park. Mr. Thompson.
Marcus Thompson, City Engineer, 6695 Church Street. So the reason for the change order before you this evening is one, to address the area that's behind the parking lot of the football field, which is heavily overgrown, creating potential hiding spots and security risk. Second, active erosion near the gym and senior center puts walkways and park infrastructure at risk. And then lastly, the park's rear perimeter inside lacks adequate security fencing, increasing vulnerability to trespassing and vandalism. Quick second. All right, just to give a surface level view of the scope. First, we have clearing and grubbing, which is basically pretty much straightforward, just removing trees, brush, and undergrowth to improve visibility. And then second, we have for the erosion control measures, we're just looking to implement riprap, sod, river rock, weed barriers, and plantings. And then lastly, for the perimeter security fencing, we're basically installing a 6 foot tall, 6-gauge black vinyl chain link fence with access gates. Staff strongly recommend approval of this change order to complete the necessary enhancements, basically just to address long-standing safety and erosion concerns, support our investment in the new park amenities, and then lastly, improve long-term usability and security of the site. Are there any questions or concerns?
Questions from mayor and council? Anyone?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Thompson. I'm going to ask if council would be okay with placing this item on a consent agenda for Monday.
I'm okay with it, just since we have some absences, I don't believe that affects anything, but I'm personally okay.
Okay. All right. Item D, authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with AECom Technical Services, Inc. for $349,000 to be paid from general funds to update the city's comprehensive transportation master plan, and Mr. Thompson will handle this one also.
So the last comprehensive transportation plan, and I'm gonna call it CTP for short, was adopted in 2020. The best practice is to update the plan every 5 years to ensure it aligns with changing traffic patterns, population and development growth, shifting community priorities, and state and federal funding opportunities. From the current plan identified, it helped launch and complete multiple transportation projects, including I-20, the implementation of the concept report for the I-20 at Highway 5 bridge improvements, sidewalk connectivity within our city, the Fairburn Road Complete Street Project, the Dallas Highway Improvements Project, and lastly, just the overall State Route 5 corridor. Looking to improve that area. And then, let's see. What our update will include is basically, it includes a study of not only just the city limits, but also adjacent jurisdictions, existing transportation data and traffic studies, and it also expands public involvement. We have listed here 3 stakeholder sessions and 3 public open houses. It also will reassess safety, congestion, transit operations, ADA, and multimodal needs. And then lastly, the update will deliver 5, 10, and 15-year action plans, a ranked priority project list, planning level cost estimates. And yeah, staff strongly recommends that we proceed with AECOM as the consultant to update our comprehensive transportation plan. Are there any questions or concerns? Yes.
We're having trouble with the mics up here, but they're going on and off. It's on now, but when I turn it off, I can't turn it back on again. Anyway, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I was curious about the timelines. It says on here that we will update this in 1 year, and then but then the plan that we get will be for 5, 10, and 15 years?
Yes,
So then are
based
we-
on
I'm confused. So are we essentially updating it then every year?
So basically, there are trends that happens every year. So basically, we're just making sure that we're keeping pace with what's going on currently. And so,
So I guess what I'm asking is, will we be paying $350,000 every year to update this plan?
not every year, no ma'am.
Okay. So about how often should we have to update this?
As I mentioned, it's best to update it within 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but within that 5 years, it will break down to have a 1, 5, 10, 15-year action plans?
Yeah, yes ma'am.
Okay, and then also on our previous, okay, on our previous plan from 2020, it listed a couple things on here, one of them being the I-20 and Highway 5 bridge, which I think, is that one that you mentioned that would be on the plan again, though?
So, no, what I meant by that, I was trying to state that from the 2020 plan, it helped us to go ahead and initiate what could be done on that corridor. So we have started that process. There may be more details provided within this current update to address potential improvements along that corridor that we will take into consideration due to the growth, the development, and the population as well.
Okay. So then
Councilwoman
when-
Miller, I
Yes,
didn't mean
ma'am.
to interrupt you, but just to give a point of clarity to help out Mr. Thompson, your comprehensive transportation plan, as he mentioned, helps you to secure federal and state funding. It's a rolling plan. So transportation projects, as you know, can sometimes take 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So for instance, State Route, the Highway 5 bridge project is going to be on your previous plan because it's not done yet. So
Okay.
they're going to continue to roll as the plans develop and as the project scopes change. And the reason that you have to take a look at them every year, which we haven't done, is because, as Mr. Thompson is stating, as development happens, sometimes your road infrastructure has to change. So as their residential development and commercial development, that may impact what happens to a road that may not necessarily have previously been mentioned in your previous plan. So as your land use change, so does your transportation plan change. We haven't updated this plan consistently in a way that we should have. So by looking at it every year, we're allowing it to marry with our land use plan that consistently changes with the change in development throughout the city. So it takes a year, but we do it every 5 years, spending that $300,000+.
Okay.
Actually, we haven't done that. But your updates annually won't cost you that much, but you do need to look at it to make certain that you're keeping track and keeping pace.
Okay, that's a lot of clarity for
Yeah.
me, so much, thank you very much. And then I assume that once we get those plans, that that's the information that we would use to lobby to get the funding that we need, or to get the people out here that we need to come and take care of those projects.
Absolutely, because as he mentioned, the public input, that's a key component of securing any type of state and federal funding, is to making certain that the public had access and to be able to buy in on any of those projects. So anything that's going to be embedded in your plan is going to be vetted by the public.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Any other questions, comments? I'd like to place this item on a consent agenda if it's okay with council. Mayor Pro Tem, that's all I have tonight under finance.
Thank you, Councilman Watts. Our next committee is Housing and Community Affairs, and that's chaired by Councilman Harold Estes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Housing and Community Affairs Committee has no business this evening.
Thank you, Councilman Estes. Next committee is Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee, and we'll let the ranking member, Councilman Chris Watts, handle that.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business tonight under legislative and intergovernmental.
Thank you, Councilman. Next committee is Personnel and Organization Committee. That's chaired by Councilman Howard Estes.
Thank you again. We do have one item this evening. Item 25-142, adopt an ordinance to amend the personnel policies and procedures to revise Section 12-8 regarding separation payout of accrued leave, to revise Section 11-4, to clarify holiday pay for police department employees, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes. And we have Dr. Brian Westfield here to walk us through this.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dr. Brian Westfield, Human Resources Director, 6695 Church Street. So 2 updates this evening. The first update is an update to Section 12-8, death of an employee. The purpose of this update is to clarify and formalize procedures regarding leave and sick payout upon the death of an employee. The current policy is confusing because it states the entire section as written only applies to employees hired before January 1st, 2016. This update separates the sick and vacation payout and the eligibility for dependent health insurance, COBRA, upon death, where the hire date of 1 January 2016 is applicable. So for clarity, it was one section, and the last part read only applicable to employees hired before 1 January 2016. That was not the intent for the leave and vacation payout, so it separates the two. This update also introduces a form for sick and leave payout beneficiary. A new payout form will be designed and will be implemented upon initial onboarding and updated during open enrollment. Subject to your questions, that's all I have on this topic.
Thank you, Dr. Westfield. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Seeing none. These are obviously simple and necessary changes, so thank you for the explanation.
Yes, sir.
And if there are no objections, I would like to place this on the consent agenda for Monday. Okay, so be it. And that is all we have for the Personnel and Organization Committee, Mayor Pro Tem.
One more item, sir.
Yeah.
One more update. This is an update to Section 11-4 holidays. This update clarifies how police officers are compensated when working on holidays. This change was needed because the existing language was vague and it led to inconsistent interpretations. This update provides clear examples and defines what additional hour-for-hour pay means. It also sets limits for holiday compensation for police officers. It also provides examples. So hour for hour, if a police officer works 15 hours, they essentially get double time. They're paid for 30 hours. There was some confusion about the way it was, or the way it is currently written. So it clarifies the pay formula, and then it also specifies what police officers who do not work get paid. So for transparency, Chief has 8-hour officers, 10-hour officers, 12-hour officers. If they do not work, then they are paid their normal duty hour pay. Hopefully that's not confusing.
No, that's not confusing. I don't think.
Does that change your
I can-
judgment
No.
on wanting to place it on the consent
No,
agenda?
that doesn't, unless somebody
So if
has
a
a
police
question.
officer works, they basically get an hour for every hour that they worked. If they do not work,
On a holiday.
on a holiday, correct, sir. If they do not work, if they're an 8-hour officer, they get 8-hour holiday pay. If they're 10, like some of your detectives, they get 10 hours, and obviously, patrol officer on 12, we get 12 hours if he's not working.
But they don't get double pay if they're not working on that
Exactly,
holiday.
sir.
Okay. I think that's clear for
Second
everyone, yeah?
time's a charm.
And, yes, we will still place this on the consent agenda for Monday. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Estes. Our next committee is the Planning and Development Committee, chaired by, bless her heart, Chairwoman, Councilwoman Nicole Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Were you stepping out for this one, or did I need to wait on that?
No, I'll step out after E.
Oh, okay, my apologies. I'll maybe grab another cup of coffee or something. Thank you for that. First item number is 25-054, and that is tabled from March 3rd, 2025, to hold a public hearing to consider a request for change in zoning from planned unit development with a base zoning of general commercial to general commercial for 9.61 acres located at 3311 Summerlin Parkway in land lot 760, District 18, Section 2, parcel ID 0007, application by John W. Jordan. Mr. Dana Gray is on here to go over this item with us.
Good evening. Dana Gray, 6695 Church Street. Again, this is a rezoning for 3311 Summerlin Parkway. The applicant is requesting to rezone PUD, planned unit development, with a base zone of general commercial, GC, to general commercial. When this development was rezoned, stipulations were placed that only allowed this site to be used for a daycare or an office. So the applicant is requesting to remove that stipulation so they can just do general commercial. And they are proposing a car wash, a C-store with a gas station, a large commercial building which can be divided into smaller units, a smaller commercial building which can be a quick-serve restaurant. Staff is recommending stipulations that this parcel be restricted to C-store with gas station, car wash, 2 commercial buildings. And that concludes. Oh, I'm sorry. So it was tabled, and you had a request and a concern about the road construction on Lee Road. So I did speak to the director at Douglas County, and I'll give you some bullet points. It will be 4 lanes with a medium from 2 lanes. There will be a 50 to 60-foot decel lane turning into Summerlin Parkway. It will lead to the development, also to the Kensington in the rear, the subdivision in the rear. There will not be a light at Summerlin and Lee Road, and their projected time to finish is in August.
Thank you for that information, Mr. Gray. I know we had went over this earlier, and I myself, as I told you earlier, I am very concerned about the traffic that a development like this will bring right into a residential subdivision. So I was curious what council feels about this. I don't know if it would be appropriate to ask at this point for a traffic study, or I think maybe I might need to lean in on legal for this a little bit, because I'm not really sure what we can ask for as far as conditions go. But as it is already, there's a lot of traffic out there, and so you're talking about bringing a gas station, a small restaurant and commercial and car wash all into the one main entrance, and it's the only entrance exit for the subdivision. So council, what are y'all's thoughts on that? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Chairwoman. I would definitely echo your comments. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I'm looking at the plan. This is the absolute definition of sprawl, what is proposed here. I guess I would also have one question for the applicant. The renderings that were included in this packet, could you please tell me that those are placeholders and not what the actual buildings will look like? Okay.
They are placeholders, they're just for a general idea.
You want to come up to them?
Sorry.
Anyone else? No.
Terry got his question answered.
Yes.
Okay.
I think so. He got quiet.
No, I was waiting for him he was going to respond to the question.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. We can present generally or.
Name and address for the record.
Sure. Greg Hecht, Hecht Walker Jordan, 205 Corporate Center Drive, Stockbridge, Georgia, 30281, here for the applicant. We have been here before, if you would like. I know it's a public hearing again, so I can present generally. I don't know if you want me to go through the whole presentation again, but happy to present as you would like.
Since we've already been over this, unless there's a specific question, I would be fine with you just answering the questions that be.
Sure. I'd be glad to answer as best I can. And we have Josh Osterhut as well, who's the project engineer as well. Those are just renderings. Yes, sir. They're just renderings.
I would actually be interested in hearing you respond to the chairwoman's comments about traffic and.
Sure. Madam Chairwoman, I'd say a couple of things. One, you've got a right-in, right-out on Lee Road. This was originally supposed to be PUD commercial, so it is for this type of purpose. It's been vacant for 20 years. It was recommended by Planning Commission. It is basically, I believe it's been administratively changed to accommodate. The flume has been administratively, I believe, updated to accommodate the project. I would say, unfortunately, having to be a lawyer, which I hate, we have filed our constitutional notice. The land's been vacant 20 years, and it's supposed to be used for commercial. This is probably the least intensive in comparison to what in a lot of ways, what it could be used for. Certainly not an apartment complex. It's not that large. It's 3 structures, which seemed, as the staff appeared to say, as well as the Planning Commission, consistent with what's expected. And it would certainly increase the commercial property values as well as employment in the area, which presumably that's what it was for when it was PUD commercial and is now general commercial.
So the development itself, I could see where that would be beneficial, and yes, I've seen what the Planning Commission said. I've been out there myself.
Sure.
My concern is the impact that it would have on the residential component that has already been there. So what I'm asking for is, can we please look at a red light, a roundabout, a speed table, something possibly to mitigate those issues before we put this burden on those residents? And if you'll just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Yep. Josh Osterhout, Facility Design Group, 36225 Detroit Road, Avon, Ohio. I guess first thing I will say, ultimately, it's not up to us whether there's a light there or a traffic circle there. That really comes from the county since they own the road. We've already spoke to the county. They are going to require us to do a traffic study as part of their review process, which comes in their next phase of the permitting process. And what comes of that traffic study, and they gave a very detailed list. It's not just detailed to that intersection. It's going, if I remember correctly, approximately half a mile down each direction on Lee Road, and obviously takes into account Summerlin Road and a couple of the other neighboring side streets. And it's not just traffic counts, it's taking into account turning movements, it's taking into account future land uses and so forth. So it'll be very detailed, but ultimately, whatever comes of that traffic study, they will review and make their recommendations, and whether we need to put in a traffic light or a roundabout or anything like that. Unfortunately, even if we wanted to, we couldn't do that because it's not our property. They own it the right of way. Kind of going back to your previous question about, being worried about the amount of traffic going into the residential neighborhood, the traffic study will cover that actually. It'll tell you at specific points along Summerlin Road how much traffic is actually coming into the development and then how much is going past the development into the residential subdivision. Typically in something like this, you can roughly estimate about 10% of increase in traffic into the actual subdivision, so going past the commercial property. That could be plus or minus. Obviously, the traffic study hasn't been done yet, so we don't know, but that'll all be specified in that.
Right, and I'm aware of how the traffic study works. I guess my question was, can we put something in the conditions before a traffic study is done? And what promise would that give to us or the community and residents who are already there, that would really be upheld once the traffic study is done? And once we make our decision, I mean, that's already made. So then if we don't like the traffic study, then there's really nothing we can do, I feel like.
Yeah, and actually, to kind of build on that as well, we've already spoke with, our client, and, they will adhere, and okay with putting it in the stipulations as far as any kind of improvements that are recommended in the traffic study to, that they'll handle those.
Okay. Council, Ms. Hampton, did you have something to add to that?
The only thing I was going to mention, as it relates to what you all are requesting, I think that it may be wise to give legal an opportunity to make a recommendation to you all because of where this property sits and what road it involves and the zoning. So we'll have an answer for you unless she already does.
Good evening. So the property is currently located in a PUD with a base zoning of general commercial. For general commercial, currently our code does not require a traffic study just based on the nature of that zoning classification. So either under the current zoning or the proposed zoning, we would not require a traffic study.
Thank you.
But I believe GDOT's requiring a traffic study.
County DOT, but yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah, county.
Okay, okay.
To some degree, the traffic study's already been done. The road's being widened from one lane to two because of the volume of traffic that's already on it. So in that sense of the word, that traffic study's already been made. Since the residential development's
Right.
been in place for 15 to 20 years, you're only looking at the amount of cars that'll turn off Lee Road into that development. I have no idea what that would be, but as Mr. Heck says, I doubt it would be over 15 to 20% of the work.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
and to further add on to that, when the county DOT did their traffic study, they would have projected future development as well for the next, usually it's 20 years, but I don't know exactly what it was, but usually it's a 20-year projection. And also I don't think this was brought up, after speaking to the county, I don't know if you guys have the plan in front of you, but, we're showing one right in, right out off of Lee Road, which is approximately in the middle of our property. That's gonna have to get adjusted, and we actually are gonna have to extend the decel lane that they're currently constructing, in order to put that in. So we'll actually be helping take traffic off Lee Road and into our development quicker.
Thank you for that explanation. Coach, did,
Gonna let a couple people go.
we only have a couple of people here tonight. Mayor Pro Tem, you got something to add to this?
Yeah, just a question. Senator Hecht, is the parking that you have, anything I
You have a good
remember?
You have a good memory. That's 20 years ago, Mayor, but thank you, very kind.
Is the parking that you're showing, is that meeting, I'm assuming obviously it meets the minimum number, but have you gone above and beyond the amount of parking? Or are you just hitting the minimum amount of parking that's required on that?
I'm gonna let my engineer talk on
There's a
that.
lot of impervious surface there is what I'm getting at.
There is. So,
I'm sure your pond, your retention pond is adequate. I won't question
it will
that.
be. I mean, you know, we're not in full design yet, so that pond is just an approximate size, but it'll be plus or minus maybe 20% of that size. But it will meet all current city, county, and state regulations to handle all stormwater measures. As far as parking counts, we will finalize that. It's general, it's close, plus or minus, but we need to know what our uses are before we actually get a final parking count. And those parking counts, as we get uses, will go back into the city.
I mean, I'm just winging here because it looks like a lot of parking.
I think we
lot
have,
more
just
than
in the main, like not including the outlots, I think it was around 175 spots. And then, obviously, like the C-store has its own count, which I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think that was around 20, 25.
So my gotcha question is, how does this promote connectivity and community in the city of Douglasville, this development?
Well, I mean, I can comment in engineering comment, but the whole idea, I think, for this originally was to be kind of a connective PUD in the commercial utilization to connect the surrounding properties. And I hate being the lawyer guy to a degree, but, obviously from a due process property right, from an equal protection standpoint, from a, unreasonable taking standpoint, we have to protect our rights, and I have to say that. But that was the whole idea. And now, if this were restricted, it almost suggests there's no reasonable use because it's been vacant 20 years. Finally, there's an opportunity to make it what it was supposed to be and to likely bring in what we would expect to be quite a bit of employment, quite a bit of commercial revenue for the county, and the opportunity to not make it continually this vacant kind of dust land, so to speak. So it's supposed to connect the surrounding parcels in the way it was originally intended.
Gentlemen, not to be ugly, but we do have, this is actually a public hearing too, and then we still have about 2,500 more items, so just
I
keep that in
can-
mind, please, Mayor Pro Tem, when you're coming up with our needed questions.
We're happy to
Okay,
leave whenever you would like us to.
thank you. Before we open this up for the public hearing, council, do you have any questions?
I just have a quick question, yeah. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it clearly, because I do share some of the same sentiments as it relates to traffic. I equally visited over there and kind of saw the lay of the land, so I understand, and I do appreciate the email you sent me as well with the very in-depth traffic study. And so it's four lanes total, 2 and 2. Is there a median breaking those lanes that are we aware of? And is there a break right there in that little T?
No. So, yes and no. So there is a median going down Lee Road. It is 4 lanes with a decel lane going on to Summerlin, which, again, as I mentioned before, that decel lane will be extended for our property.
Correct.
The only break in that area or along our frontage is actually at the intersection of Summerlin, and that won't change. So nobody heading towards the highway, I think that's north, north, on Lee Road will be able to turn left into the development, other than going onto Summerlin and then turning, into the development, if that makes sense.
Okay, so you'll have an entry point for your business on Lee Road as well as Summerlin going into the residential.
Correct. So Lee Road will be a right in, right out only, that
Understand.
curb cut. And then, anything going northbound on Lee Road will have to turn onto Summerlin and then into the, commercial development.
Thank you, I yield.
Thank you for that. Guys, at this time, we do need to open the floor up for a public hearing. If there's anyone here who would like to speak either for or against this item, now is your chance. All right, Mr. Schaefer, if you'll please just come give us your name and address for the record, please.
Phil Schaefer, 9064 Myrtle Drive. I don't have a direct interest in this as part of just being a citizen of the county, but I do have interest in this because it did help the owners with the property to the north, and of course, I'm aware of this property as being the county administrator for zoning for a while. The issue that you're asking about, PUD, we don't have PUDs in vacuums. PUDs are combined properties, so a commercial and a residential component were approved years ago. We have bunches of these all over the county and the city where we approved a residential component that got built. And then the commercial component never got built. That's what you're sitting on here. I would recommend that this be approved with lots of improvements to the property, but if you're worried about a traffic study, you don't approve it tonight. All of my history, we've always viewed zonings as either they're appropriate when they're asked for or they're not. If you don't have the facts of what you want fixed, you don't approve it that night. Now here, we tend to be a little more lenient. We'll offer approvals and then put conditions in if something happens. But again, this was approved, Dana, as I understand it, for daycare? And an office. The reason being, you were on your road into a residential setting in a PUD originally, and this was what we thought we would build there. The builders just never built it. Now you have a much more intense development coming forward asking for permission to do a lot of things that are not originally anticipated in that approval by a city council some years ago. So that's your choice. Do you want to have them help redo that corner and have some more additional intensity, which would be helpful for those folks there, potentially. Obviously, they could shop, go get gas, whatever, it would be helpful. But again, that's what you're up against. It's not a PUD in a vacuum. This is not PUD commercial. This is the commercial component of a planned unit development that had a residential part and a commercial part. So I just wanted to clarify that because I hear these words thrown around in a vacuum and sometimes it confuses people. This had a purpose originally, and that's what it's zoned for.
Thank you so much for that. Is there anyone else? Okay, if not, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And if council, if you don't have anything else to add to this, we can take this item up on Monday. If you think of any questions, comments, please reach out to myself and staff between now and then. Thank you. Our next item is item number 25-055. Tabled from March 3rd, 2025, says to hold a public hearing, consider a request for change in zoning from residential agricultural county to residential or single-family residential detached city for 79.60 acres located on Doris Road in Land Lot 228, District 2, Section 5, parcel ID 0001, application by Jeff Matthews. And Mr. Dana Gray is down here to go over this item with us also.
Good evening again. Again, this is a rezoning from a county zoning classification, residential agriculture, to city zoning classification R2, located on Doris Road. They are proposing 41 single-family homes. Planning Commission recommended denial. This week, the applicant sent a traffic statement, which I do believe you all have. And the applicant chose to table this at the March 3rd meeting. And if this is approved, they will be required to do 1 unit per acre as a condition of approval.
Thank you. Is the applicant here, and would you like to come down? I don't even think you presented to us last time. If you'd like to come down, just give us your name and address for the record, and we can try to.
Thank you. My name's Jeff Matthews, 215 West Bankhead Highway, Villarica, Georgia. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a beautiful day in West Georgia. And last time I was here, I explained who Themis is or was in Greek mythology, so I won't go through that again. But this piece of property, my wife and I have owned it for 31 years, since 1994. It hadn't been a quick fix and flip. And I've found over the years that most rezonings or annexations are more about change because people just don't like change generally. But I'd like to address some of the most common concerns, and I'll try to do it briefly. I could talk all night when we're talking about land. But some of the most common concerns you see and how they relate to our property, first of all, is always, anywhere you go, is traffic. People are concerned about traffic. I went to a meeting the other day at Panera Bread. I was running late, get stuck in traffic. I looked up in the mirror and I thought, geez, Junior, you are traffic. And if we didn't have traffic, we wouldn't all be here. You wouldn't have Panera Bread or Texas Roadhouse or Hudson's or Gumbo's. You wouldn't have the situation that we've got. So last time we tabled this because there were some concerns about traffic, and we're concerned about it because there is a good bit of traffic on that road. So we had this traffic study, and I think y'all have it in your packet. And it's not just a traffic feeling that someone says, oh, I had to wait 30 seconds to get out of my driveway. This is actually based on GDOT data from a traffic count coupled with public safety data from the Georgia State Patrol, the Sheriff's Department, anytime they have an accident. And it shows that there is a good bit of traffic on that road. It's 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. Nobody does it. It has people coming out of Paulding County. I don't know why they haven't moved over to 92 because it's now 6 lanes straight to I-20. But I've been out there in the morning and I've seen people texting, driving down the road, eating a biscuit. I saw one young lady putting on mascara, texting at the same time. She might want to be in the circus. But this traffic study detailed that there's 12,500 vehicles per day. And if you break that down, if you extrapolate that over the last 5 years, there's been 37 accidents on that general area. And I noticed today that we have finally gotten a protected left turn if you're turning from Cedar Mountain Road onto Doris Road going north. There is a green arrow because a lot of those accidents were caused by that. And it's in this list, and I'll read it. But there have been 3 right-angle crashes, 1 head-on, 19 rear-end crashes. It goes back to that texting. 2 side swipes, 11 crashes that did not involve a second motor vehicle. That's a single vehicle driving off the road. Whether they're distracted or just wanted to park on the side, I don't know. But given that 5-year analysis, and also there have been no fatalities in that group of accidents, but there have been at 12,500 vehicle trips a day over 5 years. That's 22 million trips, vehicle trips. So 37 accidents out of 22 million trips. The road needs some attention. I don't know whether it's speed bumps. I don't know whether it's traffic tables. I don't know whether you can run radar on it. The chief could answer that question. I'm impressed that y'all are buying a piece of property on out further west of us. Maybe his folks can stop by and write tickets on the way. But our track doesn't cause that traffic. It hasn't caused any of that traffic, and it can't control it, and it can't cure it. But I do think that something needs to be done on it because there is a fair amount of traffic. The second concern you hear about any kind of rezoning are schools. And I'm certainly a proponent of good schools because they help sell houses. And I think there's 2 questions. The first question you always get on a house sale, number 1, is price. Second one, mama always wants to know where the kids are going to go to school. Well, the Douglas County School Board is pretty proactive, and they're forward-thinking. They've got over 3,000 employees. I didn't realize that till I looked it up. And I don't know if you read a lot of different things, and this doesn't particularly apply just to this, but between the 2010 and the 2020 census, there were 67 counties in the state of Georgia out of 159 that lost population. So growth is not necessarily a bad thing, because if you're a young teacher getting out of Kennesaw or the University of West Georgia, you don't want to rush your resume down to Camilla, Georgia, or Stewart County. You need to be in an area like this with a vibrant, growing economy. There are a lot of counties that are consolidating schools across county lines to try to keep them open. The third concern you always see, you always hear it, is something about the environment. And we're concerned about the environment too, because we live here. And most folks tend to forget, though, the impact that their house build had on the environment. But our primary concern on this piece of property is the creek. There's a creek on the property that is a tributary to Gothard's Creek. And before we do any land disturbance, we'll put in detention ponds. I've got a young man here with Hughes Ray that can answer any questions, because we know we can't increase the runoff coefficient. We can't put any more water in that stream than what was in it from its natural state. My main concern out there, though, is that's a pretty little creek, and we intend to clean up some around it, but we've got to stay out of it. There's a 25-foot mandated state buffer requirement, non-disturbed. But 2,200 feet west of us, going out toward the piece of property y'all are looking to buy, there's a 1,024 acre landfill. And it's been there a long time, and they do a real good job. They've got leachate controls, monitoring wells, they line the cells. But on our creek, we feel like that our side is really the better side. Of course, we naturally would, but because it's ours. But we'll do a water sample where the water hits our property. We're going to do a water sample where it hits Doris Road, and then we're going to go down the stream and do one at North Flat Rock Road, because there is a shingle mountain on the east side of Doris Road. Some gentleman was in the shingle business, and he backed out there and dumped shingles for years. I looked at the piece of property. If you walk out on it, you think you're on a lake dam, and somebody has breached the dam, but it's just where they backed out there and dumped shingles for years and years, and nothing's ever been done. So we're concerned about the creek, and we'll do our part to clean it up. And it's a little different on our piece of property than many places you see. Our property has got a cemetery on it. The little lady I bought it from, Miss Dorothy Simmons, her people had owned it for 100 years, and being a young land buyer, I wanted to deduct a little bit of land, and she argued with me and told me nobody knows who's buried there, and they probably really don't. But after we bought the piece of property, my surveyor said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Mark it off, because I'm not going to bother it, because I may be the only guy in the room with 2 Buckeyes in my pocket for good luck, and I got a rabbit's foot in the truck. I'm not going to take a chance on a cemetery." Because when you go out there and look at that cemetery, you can clearly know that it is a cemetery. Now, she argued with me that it wasn't. And the little lady with the cemetery commission called me, nice lady, I don't remember her name, and we gave her a key to a lock on the gate, told her they cleaned it up, they put up a sign, it's called the Harper Hudson Cemetery. But if you were dropped in there from Mars, you would know that somebody took some care, because every one of those graves is oriented due east and west, and there's nothing out there over about 1.5 foot tall flint rock for a headstone, but every one of them is facing east. So there was somebody that had a belief when they buried them there. The other favorite thing that everybody always brings up when you have a rezoning is everybody wants to protect our pastoral, rural, bucolic nature. Well, in this particular area, but they want it to be rural, but they want to have good medical, and they want to be close to good restaurants. It's kind of hard to make both of those things happen. But this area is no longer rural. With 12,000 500 vehicles a day. That's more urban. The road really needs some attention from a standpoint of turn lanes. Our development will have accel, decel lanes going into it, out of it. There'll be 2 separate entrances on either side of the creek. But that area, first of all, you had the Douglas County dump, 1,024 acres. And then further west of us, you have got several hundred houses, Mountain Ridge, Cedar Mountain Park, Governor's Ridge, and Corn Crib, all on half-acre lots on septic tanks. We're proposing 2 acre lots that will have septic tanks. And we also, back to my cemetery, we're gonna try to make that a plus. We're gonna try to put in like and I'm gonna fence it, but I wanna put in like a little stub of a concrete sidewalk and maybe a park bench or something where you can sit down there and look at it, because it'll make your blood pressure go down when you walk up down there. And the other thing, and this is, just personal opinion, I guess, but we're not asking anybody else to annex. And, no other participation is required. And last month, when I was here, Dr. Danley, she's not here this evening, she asked me a good question. And I think I gave her a straightforward, flat-footed answer as you're going to ever hear here. Because she asked me, why do you want to be in the city versus the county? Well, I'm across the street from the city. Y'all are moving out that way. But my answer was 2 reasons. Number one, because my engineers have a good working relationship with the city. I've had a couple of experiences with the county, and we disagreed on a couple of things that I thought were safety concerns, and they disagreed with my engineer, and we had to go their way. But from a perspective of responsiveness, your city staff is responsive. If they send an email, it saves me money because we get a response. And the second part of this equation is that there have been numerous studies that property inside of city limits will bring a slight premium to property in the county. Douglas County is a big old county, and there is a more insular nature, a little closer. And on that question she asked me, when I was leaving here that night, I asked myself a question, and I thought, gee, are you making a mistake? My wife tells me I make them all the time. She keeps a little running ledger. She can tell you what I did wrong in 1987. But my question was, y'all have got a vibrant, growing city. I rode through the park up here, Jesse Davis Park, earlier today. Y'all have got a downtown that's growing. You got 42,000 people. And I guess if I'm missing a clue, I'd like for somebody to tell me, why wouldn't somebody want to be a part of that? And I don't want a dog whistle answer or somebody to, these younger folks talk about gaslighting somebody, and I had to look that up. But it's an answer that is not exactly, I guess the word would be disingenuous. But I don't know why. I mean, and my interest is just like that little lady that asked the first question on a house, what's the price? It's about the money, because that's what I do for a living. But I'll be glad to answer any questions, and if you've got any technical questions, Mr. Howell here can answer anything on astrophysics or whatever we want to talk about. Otherwise, I would just appreciate the opportunity and respectfully request that you annex this property at its current no increase in density. And if you want to come by and visit the cemetery, I'll give you a key.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Thank you so much. While I've got you here, I do have one question for you, please, and that is, if annexed, what is your intention? Are you wanting to develop it and then build these homes yourself, or are you wanting to develop it and then sell it to another builder?
At this time, we would self-perform. We would build them ourselves.
Okay. I may have questions for you again in a minute, but, I know that we've still got several items, but, Council, before I open this up for the public hearing, do you guys have any questions of the applicant, Coach?
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. If for some reason the vote didn't go the way you wanted to and you weren't annexed, you would, I'm assuming, the way it's zoned in the county, you would still go forward with the development that you're planning? I mean, it's already zoned to do what you want to do, whether it's in the city or county. Am I saying that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. It's not a museum piece.
Gotcha.
You know, we've held it a lot longer than we anticipated, but
Yes, sir.
I'm getting old enough now, and my wife and I are doing some estate planning, and so we're not, you know, I'm old enough, I don't even buy green bananas anymore.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Do you have a question, Mayor Pro Tem? You got about 45 seconds, friend.
Cul-de-sacs, more cul-de-sacs.
Thank you.
That wasn't a compliment. Why the cul-de-sacs? Why can't you connect the
Sir?
streets? Why the cul-de-sacs? Why can't you connect the streets? I understand the one on the bottom, you've got a narrow little piece, you know, on the second parcel there on the other side of the stream, but
So, I'm Brian Howell with HRC Engineers. We could potentially connect that road where you're talking about on the north portion there, but on the southern portion, unless we cross that creek.
yeah, I understand the southern
Yeah,
portion because of this creek being in the way and the green space. But, and also, is there a restriction for having a second entrance into the development? You know, the street, what you call it B, that runs past the cemetery, is there any reason why it cannot be extended out to Doris Road so that you have two ways in and out?
I don't know that there's necessarily a restriction.
I mean, I understand sometimes, you know, you don't want the roads too close together, there are issues with that.
Right.
But I think you've got more than a city block there in distance that you could actually have two entrances.
Right, we'd have to look at site distance and things like that to see if I think the site distance is better on that other side, but we can analyze that and certainly be open to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Anyone else down here on this end? No?
Not at this time.
Okay, great. At this time, let's go ahead and open this up for the public hearing. I think you guys have a short amount of time to come down here and if you'll give us your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name's, excuse me, DeWitt Roper, 6826 Cedar Mountain Road, Douglasville, Georgia. Mayor Pro Tem and council members, when we were here last month, Councilmember Danley asked the applicant why he wanted to be annexed, and the same question the planning board asked him. The applicant said he had two reasons. The first reason was his engineer could walk to City Hall. With modern transportations, that's not a valid reason at all. I doubt his engineer will walk to City Hall in July and August with 95-degree temperature and 50% humidity. The second answer he gave was a history lesson. He said, from the Garden of Eden to present times, he said, from the beginning of time until now, people have always wanted to live in cities. This is not so. Here's another history lesson. In 1948, after World War II, Bob Ford moved from Illinois to Cedar Mountain Road. He bought 200 acres from the same family the applicant purchased his property from. 77 years later, his children and grandchildren still live on this property. Judge Caldwell has family living on property her great-grand-aunt lived on. Now to the fifth and sixth generations, they still live on that property. In 1957, Mr. Shipley bought a farm on Doris Road. 67 years later, his children and grandchildren still live on that property. Ralph Roper bought his place in 1957, and Ropers still live on that property. The Lindleys, the Dillards, the Meadows, Earl White, Tony Bigby, and more have lived in their homes for 30, 40, 50, and some 70 years or more. Dr. Joel Tidwell and Buford Hudson all have farms in our community. We have cattle farms, alpaca farms, and hay farms. As an honorary mayor of the Dark Corner Cedar Mountain community, I think I can say safely that most, if not everyone, opposes this annexation in our community. I know of no other community in Douglas County where neighbors have been neighbors for decades and have generations of children and grandchildren living on their ancestors' properties. Many have spent decades of sweat, equity, hard-earned money to build homes and families to live in this rural area. This is our history. The applicant already has an R2 zoning. He doesn't need annexation. We respectfully ask that you deny this annexation. Also, the applicant told the zoning board and this city council that the county doesn't oppose this annexation. After meeting with the commission chair, our district commissioner, and talking to the county government, I can assure you the county opposes this annexation. We furnished you with a list of signatures that includes just about everyone from the landfill to Doris Road and from Cedar Mountain to Sweetwater Church Road. I know of no one who supports this annexation. I was going to stop there, but since he's brought some stuff up, I'd had a traffic study done at Doris and Cedar Mountain in 2010. I paid a lot of money for it. There was 14,000 cars a day that came through there. We've had 2 fatalities right in front of this property in the last 5 years. One was a lady and a baby, and the other was 2 ladies. But we've had quite a number of fatalities right in this area. As far as the cemetery, I told the county about that cemetery probably 65 years ago. I'd like to know what he's done to the cemetery, how respectful he is of it right now, the condition of it, or whatever it is at the present time. And the agenda item that came up about the training, traffic training, will that be annexed into the city? It's currently county property right now. There's a shooting range and a fire training facility there.
Supposed to keep to the agenda item, but I think the answer is no.
Yeah. It won't have to be annexed into the city. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay.
Just to reiterate what he just spoke about, I personally wrote the letter to the mayor for the city expressing opposition to this annexation by the county. So I know that the county commissioners have voted in open session to oppose this annexation, and I made that request to you some months back, just to reiterate what he has just said.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just wanted to clarify, the county has withdrawn that objection due
Okay.
to the density not being changed.
Okay, so then we do not have an official objection.
That's right.
Okay. Do we have anyone else here who would like to speak to this item before I close the public hearing? Okay, I'll take that as a no, and I'm going to go ahead and close this public hearing. Council, do you guys have anything else that, Coach?
I know this is kind of late, but were we required to remove this from the table before we had this big, long discussion and public hearing?
Before we vote.
Okay, all right, gotcha, thank you.
Anyone else? No? Okay. I don't know why, but I just feel like I need to share with you guys a little bit, because I think sometimes you guys look up here like maybe we're from, New York City and have no heart for this community. So for whatever it's worth, my grandfather grew up on a little farm down off Anawake with no running water. When my mama was in high school, he went and put running water in that house. And years later, when my great-grandfather passed away and my grandfather sold some of that land so that he could build a house for my great-grandmother to live in, I remember he put a microwave in it, and she was so upset because she felt like he had brought the devil into her home. But I said that to share with you guys that I understand. I've also seen change. I myself, unlike some of you though, I need to be able to have Amazon delivered same day, or preferably, within a few hours, and I need to be able to get around, and that's why I've been in downtown Douglasville for, 20-something years. But I do understand, and I see it from both sides. I've grown up in the industry. My grandfather was a builder and developer, so I understand the rights of property owners And for you guys out there that live off Doris Road, I hope that you understand that it doesn't matter if it's annexed or not, the developer can go and build these homes. So I think it's a matter of if your neighbors are going to be city residents or not, but even if they are, it doesn't mean that you have to be a city resident. It just means that your neighbors are, and that your neighbors would have more amenities, and that statistically speaking, your neighbors' property values will be a little bit higher because they'll have more amenities and they'll be part of that city umbrella. So I just wanted to share that little bit and share my heart with you guys. Council, did y'all have anything else that you wanted to add to this before I close it out? Okay. If y'all-
Actually, I did want to, I could say, I appreciate what you said there, and not having grown up here, but growing up in a small town in a similar fashion. But to your point, you're absolutely right. We are growing, and private property rights are paramount in this country. We have to respect them. That's simply the way it is. So, and as I stated so many times over and over again, you're living 25 minutes from the largest metropolitan area in the country, 20 minutes from the busiest airport in the world. It's not going to go away. Growth is going to happen. But what is put upon our table here is that we have the responsibility to control that growth and to direct it and to make it better. I would rather be in a position to try to improve. That's what, people probably wonder why I ask the weird questions I do sometimes, because the questions I talk about or I try to address are the quality of life issues. I mean, if development's going to happen, okay, it's going to happen. And we can't stand in the way if it's legally allowed to happen. But what we can do is try to make that development better. Make the development in more of a community, make it more valuable to those who are already here, make it more respectful, make connections to the community, make it more pedestrian, make it so that we can have front porches that we can walk down the street and enjoy some time with our neighbors. Yes, and it's nice to get Amazon delivered same day at your porch as well. But that's why we're here to begin with. It's just simply to make a better community. That's what it comes down to. And so, anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you, friends. We're going to go ahead and close this, and we will bring this item back up on Monday. Moving along, item 25-100. Tabled from March 3rd, 2025. Consider a petition to annex 79.60 acres on Doris Road and land lot 228, District 2, Section 5, parcel ID 0001. Application by Jeff Matthews, and Mr. Dana Gray is down here to go over this item with us also.
Yes, this property again is on Doris Road. They're proposing 41 units. The applicant has requested to annex the property RA, residential agriculture, which is in the county, to R2, single-family residential detached, which is in the city. And the county had no objections to the annexation request.
Thank you for that. Relating to the annexation, are there any questions? No? Okay. Would the applicant like to add anything to it, or I feel like we've kind of covered a lot of ground tonight? Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. You guys, if you do come up with questions that you have between now and Monday, please reach out. Thank you. And Mr. Gray, thank you so much for that. We'll take this item up on Monday. Item 25-109 says to hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from planned unit development to planned unit development for 10.21 acres located at the intersection of Stewart Mill Road and West Stewart Mill Road in Land Lot 11, District 1, Section 5, parcel ID 0222. Application by Jeff Matthews, and Mr. Dana Gray is going to go over this one with us also.
Yep. This is a rezoning request to change the zoning from PUD to PUD to reduce the front yard setback from 25 foot to 15. This came before you at the beginning of the year as a rezoning and an annexation which was approved. They had everything ready with their site plan. However, Douglas County DOT came forward and requested an additional 10-foot of right-of-way on the frontage of West Stewart Mill Road and Stewart Mill Road. So rather than push back from the property line 25 foot and encroach on the proposed amenity area, they have requested to reduce the frontage to 15, which will only happen along the frontage, and the interior lots will not be affected. So they, in general, are proposing 93 units. They did add on 2 units because Georgia DOT did not allow them to exit onto Stewart Mill, which gave them more space to add 2 more units. So they will have a total of 93 units, 86 townhomes, and 7 single-family homes. And on March 4th, Planning Commission recommended approval.
Okay. And is that typical? Does county DOT have some kind of regulated formula that they go by when they're estimating like the turn lanes and the setbacks?
I did have a brief conversation with the engineers, and they did tell me that the DOT can do that, can request extra
So they ask for extra this time?
Yes,
Okay, so no rhyme or reason, okay.
I do not.
Council, do you guys have questions of Mr. Gray?
I do, Madam Chair, thank you. I'm sorry, that maybe I missed what you said. So they had an exit onto Stewart Mill, and the county DOT turned it down?
Yes.
But they didn't give you a reason why?
The applicant might know the reason. I don't, yes.
Does the applicant know why?
And I can definitely find out.
Okay.
Brian Howell with HRC Engineers. They didn't really give a great reason why. They just said it's not allowed, and it might have been something, the proximity to the
I
intersection.
was going to say, where did you show the exit originally?
So if you look at, let me pull
I
the
see a
plan
gap
up and I can
between
tell you,
70
but-
and 71. Is that maybe where you were showing it?
So it would have been, if you're looking at the plan, between lots 80 and 81, I believe.
80?
Right in that proximity. Might even been 60 or 76 and 75
I mean,
right there.
I mean, I can understand why over by 70, even over by 70, 74, 75, because you're getting close to the intersection. But I can't understand why they wouldn't let you have another entrance onto Stewart Mill over by the 80s, or even, let's say, if you took it to the end by 86. I mean,
Right.
that's plenty of distance from the intersection.
They didn't give a good I actually think I have the email here. Or the comment verbatim somewhere in here. The right in, right out along Stewart Mill will not be allowed, period. So,
Well,
that's.
because we said so is apparently
Yeah.
the answer from the county. Okay,
Basically,
that's-
basically.
That's going to have to be addressed, no, maybe not by you, but,
Well, actually, I mean, there's more to it. You will need to explain to the city staff that they have no jurisdiction within the right-of-way of West Stewart Mill or Stewart Mill Road and cannot impose restrictions upon property they do not govern. Right in, right out along Stewart Mill will not be allowed, period.
there's a lot to be read between those lines now, isn't there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So once that was taken off the table and they could no longer do the second, I'm sorry, I was trying to catch Councilwoman Hudson up over here. And then they came and said, no, wait, your turn lane has to be longer.
Yeah, so, basically, they were, since this is a minor arterial, West Stewart Mill and Stewart Mill, they're saying since it's a minor arterial, it's required to have 100-foot wide right-of-way, and currently it has about 80 feet. So they said from 50 feet from our center line on Stewart Mill and West Stewart Mill, we had to have 50 feet from the center line to the right-of-way. We currently have 40.
Okay.
So that's why it was going to be 10 feet all along West Stewart Mill and Stewart Mill.
Okay. And then, I'm sorry, I want to backtrack just for just a second, if that's okay. Is it safe to only have one entrance exit with a development of this size?
Yes, I believe it is. For the threshold is 119 units for
Okay.
2 entrances, so it's safe to have one.
Okay, so they were able to do it on that. Okay, so then, what you're asking to do is to just reduce those setbacks on lot number, is it gonna be like lot number 1 through, I don't know?
Well,
15?
actually, it'll be the whole perimeter of the property instead of it being 25 feet. Basically, along the right-of-way, there's a 20-foot perimeter setback. And instead of it being 20 feet, we'd request that it be 15. That way, the buildings along the perimeter could stay the same as
Okay.
they were originally approved.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right thing though, because you've got West Stewart Mill Road and this line of townhomes here that's like section 1 through 6 and then 7 through, is that 12?
Yes.
And then, so it's 3, 4, 5, all the way around that curve there then on West Stewart Mill. So we want all of those to come in.
Yes, if we were to maintain, since that right-of-way along West Stewart Mill is, they're wanting additional right-of-way, the building setback line would have to come off that new right-of-way.
Okay.
So they're wanting, they would want the building line to shift, essentially. Or
Okay.
not that they would want that directly, but they are asking for right-of-way, which would then make our building setback.
Okay. And are those the front yards or are those facing
So
Western
these
Mill?
are rear entries, so they'll be the front yards.
Okay. Council questions? No? Okay, that's fine. Well, if you kind of move on to the public hearing.
Second, could the second entrance be on West Stewart?
Yeah, so where is this
It would be difficult, especially for grading
Because
purposes.
all
I
these
know
homes here are facing. Western Mill.
grading makes it very difficult to have a second entrance on West Stewart Mill.
Okay,
Just the way this property kind of, the topography on this property is. If
Okay.
there was going to be another entrance, that would have been the
Right.
ideal location, I believe, that was taken away.
That's
Right.
just a lot of cars come out of there on that one
okay.
driveway.
Well, friends, if it's okay, let's move along to the public hearing, please.
Okay.
If there's anyone here who would like to speak either for or against this item, now is your chance. And if you guys don't have, oh, did you want to speak? Okay. If you'll just come down and please give us your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Toledo White. I live at 5346 Stewart Mill Road, Douglasville. My property borders on the side and the back of the property in question. I think I'm late to the party because I just heard about this yesterday. But I was concerned with the traffic because we only have the 2 lanes, and it sounds like there has been some type of DOT study. And I'm worried about all the units that's going to be there. It just seems like it's very congested for 10 acres. For 90, sorry, I don't have my specs on. For 93 townhomes and 7 detached family homes. I'm late, I just found out, so I was concerned about the traffic.
Okay, if it's okay, can we, if you want, you can maybe get your email address to staff over here, because we've already done the traffic reports, and then that way we can get that information to you. So right now, what we're actually looking at is, because the county DOT says that they cannot have their second entrance, and they're wanting a longer turn lane, we're just trying to determine if it's okay to have a smaller front yard.
Okay.
On the West Stewart Mill side. But if you'll make sure that staff has your information over here, we can make sure that you get your answers on the traffic mitigation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anyone else? All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing then. Okay. And if council doesn't have anything, we're gonna go ahead and move along, and we can take this item up on Monday. Don't worry, there's more. Item number 25-111 says, hold a public hearing and consider a request for change in zoning from R2 Single Family Residential Detached District to R3 Single Family Residential Detached District 4, 33.26 acres located at the intersection of Campbellton Street and I-20 in Land Lot 22, District 1, Section 5, parcel IDs C014, C015, C016, C018, C076, C077, C088, C089, and Land Lot 23, District 1, Section 5, parcel ID 0024, application by Trayton Homes. And Mr. Dana Gray is going to talk to us about this also.
Here again, this is a rezoning request to rezone R2 Single Family Residential Detached to R3 Single Family Residential Detached to develop 55 single-family homes located on Campbellton Road in I-20. They are proposing to combine 9 parcels. The entrance to development is off Elizabeth Drive with an exit only out of the development onto Campbellton Street. So that'll be a right only onto Campbellton Street. On March 4th, Planning Commission recommended approval.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Applicant is here.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Fowler.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Joe Fowler, Post Office Box 49, Douglasville, and Lewis Pride is with me. He's with Trayton. He assists them in land acquisition. We have some slides that are presented. Can I have access to those perhaps from somebody in the back or here? I have the clicker. Well, let me continue, and perhaps that can get taken care of in a moment. All right. Can you show me what is the secret sauce? That's it. Thank you. The applicant, of course, is Trayton Homes. We've been engaged in this project for some time now, as you know. And it's not giving me the next slide, but maybe that'll be in a moment. As many of you in the room will recall, over the years, the property has been under contract for several non-residential purposes. Standard retail commercial was one that I remember. Thank you very much. At one point, there were multifamily apartments requested. Then it was going to be mixed use with retail up front and multifamily apartments in the rear. Obviously, none of those proposals were successful. And then what happened is interesting. In 2023, the city revised its comprehensive plan to place this property into the medium-density residential character area. And at this point, the city's future land use plan permits a slightly higher density than the existing R2 zoning permits, which is limited to 2 homes per acre. And let me note here that as currently zoned, there could be, we believe, between 40 and 45 houses on this property. It's 33 acres and a little bit larger. And if that were to happen, there would be none of the improvements to Elizabeth Drive and Chapel Hill Road that I'll be talking about in just a moment, as zoned 40 to 45 units. Now, based on this development, Trayton has designed the plan that you have before you, and this is it. This is the 55-lot subdivision. What was presented to you initially was what was going to be a R3 proposal, and then you may remember we had to move to R5. Moving to R5 meant that we had to have alleyways in the rear. We never were able to work through that because the requirement from the city was you couldn't waive, but only 60% of the alleyways in the year, at any portion of the development. So where we are now is a total of 55 lots that you see there. It is for an age-targeted community for those 55 and older, pricing in the mid-400s. The square footage will range from approximately 1,875 to 2,400. Some sample elevations are these that you have seen before with some of the early, well, it was before the Planning and Zoning Board. As you recall, in order to address the traffic issues that had been mentioned by some of the neighbors, you'll note that on the site plan, and I'm going back to that for a moment, at Elizabeth Drive, as you leave the subdivision, there will be no left turns permitted out of the subdivision going left onto Elizabeth Drive. That is prohibited by the way the exit will be reconfigured. Plus, and subject to DOT approval, 2 more lanes are proposed to be added to Elizabeth Drive for a total of 3 lanes exiting Elizabeth Drive. And you can see that on the site plan. I hope you can enlarge it on your computer. It's hard to note there. But there will be 3 lanes exiting Elizabeth Drive. That is, in addition to what's already there. There is proposed a dedicated left turn lane onto Campbellton toward town. There is a proposed straight lane onto Hospital Drive. And there is a proposed right-only lane onto Campbellton Street going toward I-20. And then between lots 12 and 13, there's a right-out only lane into Campbellton, which is designated to keep traffic off of Elizabeth Drive. Now, as part of the R3 zoning, Triton will construct the Elizabeth Drive improvements as described and coordinated with the DOT on technical issues. It's interesting that in the city's report, it notes, the staff notes rather, that this plan, and I'm quoting, complies with the site's medium-density residential character area, and then, quoting still, is not expected to negatively impact the surrounding community. The city also found, and then I'm quoting, the request is in alignment with the medium-density residential goals. The staff then mentioned 2 recommendations, all of which are acceptable to Triton. The first is to provide a minimum 20-foot wide natural undisturbed buffer along the northern and southern boundaries of the property, which you see on the site plan. Everything on the north side and on the west side will have that same 20-foot boundary. In addition to that requirement, Triton will provide custom fencing between the development and the neighboring owners, and slides of the type of fencing that they have used before you'll see in this slide here. By the way, the entrance feature for the community would be something that they have done in other locations before, something that you see here. The second condition required by the staff has 4 parts as follows. First, the lane widening for Elizabeth Drive shall be 12-foot asphalt with thermoplastic markings. Purchasing, installing signal head equipment based on the development demands, that's number 2. Number 3, relocating the traffic signal poles as determined by the city and county staff. Number 4, placing a 10-foot no-access easement placed along all lots that have frontage along Campbellton Street. There will be that one right out only. None of the other houses can exit onto Campbellton. There will be, as I've mentioned in prior meetings, a mandatory homeowners association with routine covenants and restrictions. It is age targeted. Sidewalks will be installed on both sides of the internal roadways in the subdivision. Street lights will be installed throughout. All utilities in the community will be underground. All homes will be served by WSA services. The project will comply with all the stormwater requirements that are imposed. There'll be approximately 10 acres of open space that you can see to the west, a portion of which will contain the mandatory stormwater pond. We have spoken with the Schaefer family. That's the upper left that you see. For a number of years, they have been maintaining a portion of the very northwest tip of the property. That happened to be where the gas line locates. We're going to dedicate a small portion of that area to them. That also is where their drain field is, and we have agreed as a condition of the zoning to connect that family to sewer by providing a stub out to the property line. Other than that, you've heard this application presented a number of times. We ask you to please give consideration to approve it. If you have any technical details, Madam Chair or others, Mr. Pride with Triton can address those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. I do have a quick question for you, and I'm sure I may have a few more here in a moment. But first, what happened to the age restricted 55 and up? You said age targeted, which is completely.
It's age targeted is what this is.
But before we were talking about age restricted.
Let me just check.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I must have misspoken. It's age restricted.
So it is age restricted?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification then.
Okay, I just read wrong.
No, it's fine. We definitely needed to clear that up. And then refresh my memory, because I know we've been talking about this for a while, on the buffers, backing up to the existing neighborhood. I know we had looked at adding some buffers to it along through here. I know you talked about fence line. Where are we at now with those?
Maybe yes.
Okay.
Lewis Pride, Trayton Homes,
Can you give us your address also, please?
720 Kennesaw Avenue, Marietta.
Thank you.
To be quite honest, there's just not a ton of space on this property. Just from a grading standpoint, I think the 20 foot is what's required. We've agreed to that. I think that's the best we can do.
Okay, I think you're gonna get a lot of pushback because you have an existing neighborhood of like estate-style homes that have been afforded the enjoyment of their homes, and now you're talking about taking down all these trees, on the side where the interstate is, so they're just going to get a lot more light and a lot more sound, which will directly impact their living.
Well, we've agreed to fence that whole northern area, as he mentioned. I think, as you can see from the site plan, there's no space left at all. We can go in as R2 and build 40 to 45, and there'll be none of those requirements. So we're trying to work with them. I know you know this has been a long process, so.
Could you do a solid fence?
Huh?
Can you do a solid fence rather than the type of fence that I saw depicted?
Oh, we can definitely discuss it. I think from a space perspective, the 20 foot is the best we can do.
But would that be 20 foot across, so every resident would have at least a 20-foot buffer?
You can see right there in the land plan, that's what we've shown.
Which page are you on?
Second page of the presentation.
Okay, see, we're on a different, yeah. Does anybody know what page that is for us? 14. Okay, yeah, that's where I was, but, okay, all right. Does anyone else have any questions?
They are reducing the setback.
Okay. Questions, comments, council? No? Okay, let's go ahead and open this up then, please, for the
Thank y'all.
public
Appreciate
hearing.
it.
Thank you. Residents, those of you that are here, if you have anything to add to this, please come on down, give us your name and address for the record.
Good evening, folks. Mark Adams, 6400 Elizabeth Drive, Douglasville. Greetings to you all. Hope you're doing well tonight. I appreciate all the information that's already been shared. I just wanted to reiterate something and make sure. I did have Mr. Danny Ballou, one of our neighbors, call me today, and Mr. Chip Bateman called me today. They're neither one able to be here, but Mr. Ballou is adamantly against this. Of course, he has been since day one, and he just wanted to reiterate, he's not in town. He's out of town, but he wanted you all to know that. You've answered most of my questions, except we have moved, it looks as though the developer has moved some lot lines, and I'm sure it's in order to try to get anyone that they can that backs up to our current development on Allison Court, as much room as they can. But some of the residents, it appears, now have much more room, and then Mr. Bateman says, well, now I've got 4 houses in my backyard rather than 2. But you are agreeing, or you would require as a zoning restriction that everything that the developer has requested would be in writing, and it would be a part of the zoning itself. Is that correct? Is that how that works still?
Yes, sir.
In other words, it would be in writing, and their conditions you would put in writing if it were rezoned.
Yes, sir.
So we would have a fence, we would have a 20-foot buffer in the backyards, and it does say, Mr. Fowler had mentioned age targeted, the developer's representative says restricted. There is a difference, and I appreciate you mentioning that, Ms. Miller. What about amenities? I know that we've been back and forth, and I just want to get clarification. We had amenities, we didn't have amenities. Where are we there? I'd just like that question answered.
Okay, if it's fair, once everyone has gone, we'll see if we can't get the developer up here to answer everyone's questions at once, if that's okay.
Thank you all. Appreciate
Thank
the
you.
job you do.
Hi, Brian Klutz, 6406 Allison Court. If you look at that plan, I am the first house backing into the proposed development that has houses behind it. We just recently, in the last 2 years, moved into the city. I've been in the area for 50 years. Almost didn't even know this little pocket existed back there. And when we moved and found this, we were really excited, really excited. Got a nice neighborhood back there. Even though we're right on the interstate, can't really hear it, can't see it. Every now and then I can catch a glimpse of Chapel Hill Road, but that's about it. I've got a big concern in what we're seeing on the map versus what we're hearing. We're hearing a 20-foot undisturbed buffer on that back north property line for them, just south of my property. 20-foot undisturbed buffer, 20-foot natural undisturbed buffer is what we're hearing. What I'm seeing is a 20-foot landscape buffer, and those are two completely different things. A landscape buffer, everything can be clear cut as long as they come back in that 20 feet, put additional landscaping in. The natural undisturbed buffer keeps them off of it. And I don't want to see a house back there. Everything's elevated above us. I think in the letter that Chip Bateman, my next door neighbor, wrote to you guys, he's got 4 houses behind him. It's elevated. These are 2-story homes. He's got a swimming pool. They're going to be able to see directly down into his backyard. I just wanted to make sure that I came up here and voiced my concerns for what we're seeing on the plan versus what we're hearing in the descriptions of what's going in. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Frank Wynn, 8925 Orchard Drive, Douglasville. And of course, I've been up here and spoke before about several things. And the thing I want to touch on some things real quick. Traffic is already a problem. This is by having R3, you're going to increase the problems. No doubt about it. The development that he's talking about as far as the lanes are good ideas, but the one that exits goes right into an entrance ramp onto I-20. And that is going to be nothing but a traffic hazard. The restriction to keep people from turning left out of the street going onto Elizabeth, that's all well and good. What it doesn't do is prevent cars from coming in the other direction and turning right into the subdivision. So what's going to happen, and I've tried to emphasize this earlier, I've seen it over the years, every time something changes, cars are going to come down Orchard Drive. They're going to come down Rose Circle. They're going to come down Elizabeth, where Mark Adams lives. Those streets are not designed for a lot of traffic. Two-way traffic, I have to pull over on the edge of someone's yard if it's a pickup truck, if it's any size vehicle. If it's not a Prius, you have to pull over and be careful or hit somebody's mailbox or get into their grass to let cars by. The concrete or the asphalt is not designed for heavy traffic. It is going to increase. It has increased every time an experiment has occurred or changes have made. And fortunately, there's not as many kids as there used to be, but that doesn't mean that's not going to change, and there's going to be more there. That's something that has not been
addressed at all. And it's going to be a problem you're going to have to deal with if you approve this. One of the things that I've thought about in looking at this, I haven't seen anywhere it's written down that it's senior restricted and what that means. It may be something that y'all put in there as a condition, but I haven't seen anything written about that when looking through the plans that are public anyway. As far as this development is concerned, it's zoned R2. They can comply with R2, and they're going to make whatever money they make. If they increase it to R3 and have more houses, there's been nothing proposed that tells the city how that benefits the city. Does it benefit the city at all? There's been no financial presentation. There's been no traffic improvement for the area. It is a benefit to Trayton Homes to change this. It is not a benefit to the city. It's not a benefit to the neighborhood. It's not a benefit to the architectural structure of houses in that area. Everything in that area is R2 as far as residential is concerned. There's nothing in the downtown area except for 2 small streets anywhere in the city that is R3. And this would be a problem making this one R3. It will not be better development if you change it from R2 to R3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Phil Schaefer, 9064 Myrtle. I can attest to the narrowness because I lost my passenger mirror trying to pass another pickup truck on Rose, just to let you know it's that tight. Yes, we talked with the developer. We realized that there's some things we need along the Allison Court properties. So part of the issue for you is, what are we going to measure the opaque screening between our properties and their properties? How can we give Dana an actual ordinance that he can write that says, you'll do this along that fence line? A 6-foot privacy fence, that's one thing. 20 feet of buffer, when you're just looking through pine tree, the trunks, that's not a great buffer, and that's what you're going to be looking through from their home backyards into this property. So what I would suggest by way of a condition is, can we have a 6-foot privacy fence, which they've agreed to, and can we have landscaping in that 20-foot buffer, to additional landscaping to create an 80% opacity? That's the rule we wrote between commercial and residential non-compatible properties, so that you could screen commercial off from residential. I would suggest something so that he can measure it, so that we can have some additional landscaping on their side to create that. So I would be in favor of that. The other thing I would suggest on Allison Court, which is the same thing that was required on Campbellton, is a 10-foot no-access easement. If you'll notice on the lots on Allison Court, they're quite deep, and they're large enough for someone to say, I have a big RV, I might want to put a driveway in off Allison to come in. And as you know, there's already a driveway into one of these properties from Allison. So I would suggest a no-access easement along Allison just to prevent traffic from, at some point in the future, someone might want that. As we get older, some of us like the RV lifestyle, so you just want to think ahead. I would suggest that. But otherwise, I think when they were here before, we talked about, well, what's the devil you know and the devil you don't know? I would like to see senior housing. When we first met a year and a half ago, that was my original suggestion, is not to do market rate homes, but to do senior housing, because we need senior housing. It's a market niche that's a little higher than I thought it would be, but I would suggest that the senior housing desperately needed in some capacity, so any amount of senior housing we can agree to would be an improvement over where we're at. But I would suggest those 2 little tweaks, just so that we can have something that's measurable along the property line to protect all of the neighbors. As you can see, you're putting 1/3 acres up against our 4 acres. The neighbors have a 3/4 acre property. There's another 1.25 acre property. All of these are inherently discordant. The property values are going to be what they are, obviously, because the price points are high. But again, it would be helpful if we had something you could measure. So when you go out and look, or Dana goes out and looks, we can see we've made an improvement. There's a fence and there's also landscaping. I know we talked about this as a landscaping buffer or an undisturbed buffer, but I think the undisturbed buffer would be problematic if we had to plant additional things to create a better screening at the lower canopy level. And so that's what I would suggest. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Was that all? Ladies, I see you looking at each other. Beverly, no? Okay. I just want to make sure before I close the public hearing. See, she was ready.
Beverly Lamazala, 6372 Allison Court. And I've spoken many times before, so that's why I was in this conflict of, I don't want to, I know the meetings run long, so I want to be respectful of your time. And certainly have already made a lot of comments that I know that you guys have taken into consideration. Ultimately, I know that because of the way that the land is sitting, just as has been stated, the way these houses are going to sit kind of up above our properties and sort of look down onto it, it's also going to expose us completely to Campbellton and to the highway, which there is such a thin sliver. So I don't know from a grading perspective if there is a way to reshape the land in a way that would somewhat give a little bit more, since it is such a tiny sliver of a buffer, if that could be a requirement that is a part of it. I support R2 zoning of this property so that it is in keeping, so that it doesn't devalue. We didn't have the opportunity to build on our properties at R2, at R3, and so we would like to just continue to ask that you all uphold the R2 zoning requirement for this property. I appreciate your consideration, and I would personally invite you all to come out, if you haven't already, at night down Allison Court and just stop for a moment. Right in front of my house is a perfect spot, and I want you to look through the trees. And right now they're greening up, and so you are beginning to see a screen. But if you just notice, every car that circles the ramp on 20 coming on to Chapel Hill, you can see their headlights and their taillights. And then every car getting onto the ramp on 20 already. This is with everything intact, as well as the lights of Carrabba's and all of the neon signs across the highway, all the LEDs that were put at the intersection. All of that is very much already visible from where we are. So as this is changed, a 6-foot fence, really, I'm grateful for that concession, but I feel like it really is not enough to protect us to our right to private enjoyment of our properties. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. All right, council, do you guys have any other questions about this item? No? I suggest that you think about it and talk about it over the next few days and make those phone calls or emails to each other. And if the applicant doesn't have anything else to add, let's go ahead and. Mark left. So I would say then that since Mr. Adams left, I just felt like we could get the information and send to him. Thank you, though. Thanks, Selena. No, I guess maybe can you answer just 2 questions for me? I'm sorry, I think we're all getting tired, but, okay, I know Mr. Adams had asked about the amenities.
Yes.
And where are we with those?
So we haven't made any full decisions yet, but I can tell you in our other 55-plus communities, we typically we'll do a cabana of sorts, fire pit. I don't think there's space for pickleball or anything here, but it'll definitely be some sort of cabana pavilion structure plus a fire pit at the minimum. But we've got to get into that a little bit further down the line.
I feel like we probably need to figure that out before we make decisions. Okay, what else do we need to ask? Okay. Okay.
Fire pit and pavilion.
Okay, thank you. And we'll reach out with any other questions that we
Sure.
may have between now and then, if that's okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I think that was it. Our next item is.
hearing on that?
I'm sorry, I closed the public hearing. I didn't know that we had to in a work session.
We had it listed as a
I think I
public hearing,
did.
so. Just waiting if she had closed the public hearing. Okay.
Now it's double closed. Item 25-143 says to hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance from section 3.03 of the Unified Development Ordinance to reduce the minimum lot area from 20,000 square foot to 8,632 square foot on a lot of 0.19 acres located at 8030 Carton Street in Land Lot 18, District 1, Section 5, Parcel ID A036, application by Willis Residential. And Mr. Dana Gray is on here.
Madam Chairman, may I make
Yes.
a suggestion, if you don't mind?
Yes, sir.
This is somewhat unusual. You have 5 variances requested
Mm-hmm.
on the same piece of property by the same applicant. Rather than have 5 separate public hearings, I think it might be better served if you will simply read all the variances and let Mr. Gray go over it. And then
Thank
have
you.
one public hearing for anybody that wants to speak on any of the variances.
I love that. Okay, thank you. If we can do that, then, Mr. Gray, hold tight for 1 second, and we'll do them all at once. That next one is item 25-144, says to hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance from section 3.03 of the Unified Development Ordinance to reduce the front yard setback from 50 feet to 25 feet on a lot of 0.19 acres located at 8030 Carton Street in Land Lot 18, District 1, Section 5, Parcel ID A036, application by Willis Residential. The next item is also part of this, that is, even my iPad's tired. It's not updated. There we go. 25-144. No, that's one that I just read. I'm sorry. 25-145, hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance from section 3.03 of the Unified Development Ordinance to reduce the side yard setback from 15 feet to 7 feet on land lot of 0.19 acres located at 8030 Carton Street in Land Lot 18, District 1, Section 5, Parcel ID A036, application by Willis Residential. Hold, please. Item 25-146 says to hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance from section 3.03 of the Unified Development Ordinance to reduce the rear yard setback from 30 feet to 10 feet in a land lot of 0.19 acres located at 8030 Carton Street in land lot 18, District 1, Section 5, Parcel ID A036, application by Willis Residential. 2 more. And it's not updating. There it goes. Sorry. There we
I
go.
have a printed agenda, if you'd like to read from that, Madam Chairman.
I've got that. We can switch it over. I think I'm on I. Says, hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance from section 3.03 of the Unified Development Ordinance to reduce the rear yard setback from 30 feet to 10 feet on 0.19 acres located at 8030 Carton Street in Land Lot 18, District 1, Section 5, Parcel ID A036, application by Willis Residential. And then the last one is 25-147, says to hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance from section 3.03 of the Unified Development Ordinance to increase the impervious surface coverage from 35 to 42% of a land lot of 0.19 acres located on 8030 Carton Street in land lot 18, District 1, Section 5, Parcel ID A036, application by Willis Residential. And Mr. Gray is going to help fill us in on this.
Okay, this is a request for 5 variances located on a lot 8030 Carton Street off of Offshore Mill, which is close to Dallas Highway. The applicant is proposing a single-family home on that property, which is zoned R2, and it's on approximately .02 acres. As stated, the first variance is to reduce the lot minimum square footage from 20,000 to 8,632, which is a reduction amount of 11,368 square feet. The second one is to reduce the front yard setback from 50 to 25, which is a reduction of 25 feet. The third is to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 15 to 7 feet, which is a reduction of 8 feet. The fourth is a minimum, to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 30 to 10 foot, which is a reduction of 20 feet. And the last one, they are requesting to increase the impervious surface coverage from 35 to 42 feet, which is an increase of 7 feet. And the applicant is here.
Okay. Would the applicant like to come down? And we can ask any questions and then have that public hearing. Joel, thank you. We would have been here 5 more hours. Thank you. And if you'll just give us your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Lori Kingery, and I'm with Greenlight Permit Solutions, 280 Merchant Drive in Dallas, Georgia.
Thank you.
This property is, as we've heard many times, for the 5 times, an 8,000 square foot lot. It is zoned R2, so minimum requirements are for an R2 lot is 20,000 square feet. So we currently have a lot that is undersized for the zoning. My understanding is that the zoning, the R2 zoning came in after this lot was created many, many years ago. The reason for the variances is that there is, with the current setbacks that are required for an R2 zoning, it really just pinches down this property to too small of an area to actually build on. The applicant, Calvin Willis, is looking to put a single-family home that is a ranch style with maybe a bonus room above the garage.
Thank
So do
you.
you have
You
any
answered my first question right away, which was, of course, how did we get here with a lot that's not buildable? And I recognize that we have a lot of that even in downtown Douglasville, where you're gonna have some smaller lots because these home sites were built way before we had a lot of our ordinance in place. I am curious, is this for you or is this to sell?
Go ahead.
And I'm sorry, but if you'll just give us your name and address for the record, too.
Thank you. Calvin Willis, 3762 Lanier Drive, Douglasville, Georgia 30135. This would be to sell.
Okay.
But there was a previous home on the property that was torn down. I think it was like a 2 or 3 bedroom, 2 bath ranch. So I'm looking to go back with the same style, same square footage. Not a huge lot, but it'll be better than the lot sitting vacant. Right now the lot is vacant, so it brings down the neighborhood because people will tend to dump trash, debris. So this will actually improve the neighborhood to put a single-family home back on the property, which also kind of help meet the housing need in the area.
And do we know what the future use is? I think I saw on the map that there's a house on each side of your lot already with a little bit of space, but then there was an open lot back behind there. Do we know what the future use of that is?
There is a house on the left and the right, and behind the property there's another more like, I guess, abandoned house, or I'm not sure what's directly behind me is the neighbor who has the house another house that needs to be rebuilt. Across from me is a vacant lot. I'm not sure who owns that one.
Okay, I guess I just wasn't sure if it could negatively impact residents in the future if some kind of development came along. But thank you. Coach?
This question is for Ms. Hampton. I'm not sure who else would answer it. So it sounds like since there was already a house on this lot and it's R2, would it be safe to say that that house preceded the changes in the UDO and all that we're talking about here is, I don't know.
Well,
Go ahead.
not just this city, but Austell, Villa Rica, many of the cities 25 or 30 feet wide by 60. I mean, very small lots. They're just non-conforming lots. So it's,
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay.
Quick question, Madam Chair, and I apologize if I missed the answer to this already. I see on the slideshow that there is dwellings to the left and the right. Are those currently occupied? They're owner-occupied residents?
Yes, they're owner occupied, yes.
Okay, and all right, I yield, Madam Chair.
Okay. And then my only other question, I don't know if that would be towards staff or who, but by reducing the impervious, or increasing the impervious surface, does that pose any future risk to the neighboring properties or this particular property? Can anyone answer that? I don't know. No?
There is some stormwater, if you see on the application, there is a drawing, the site plan does show, there is actually a rain garden that they've designed for the back of the property
Okay.
to accommodate that percentage,
Okay.
yeah.
It's common practice that our engineers will look at the property to see how they intend to have runoff. So they would definitely provide an answer for us.
Thank you. Okay. Council, any further questions? No, okay. Then let's go ahead and open this up for the public hearing. I don't see anyone, but if there's anyone here who would like to speak to this item, if you'll please come on down and give us your name and address for the record. And if there's no one here, let's go ahead and close that public hearing. Council, if you think of any questions between now and Monday, please reach out. And if not, you guys will take this item up on Monday. Thank you guys very much. And since Mayor Pro Tem isn't down here yet, let me just go ahead and tell you that there is no business this evening for public improvement and beautification. I'm sorry. Who's vice on public safety, doesn't he?
Did you do public?
Hey.
Okay.
Thank you for covering for me, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair.
I got it.
Let's see, the Public Relations Committee, did you do, has that been called? We'll go with the
That's
Vice
me.
Chair, Elena Hudson. Public Relations.
Well, I thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business under the Public Relations Committee this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our next committee is Public Safety Committee, and that'll be chaired by the Vice Chair, Councilman Chris Watts.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have one item, authorize the mayor to sign the First Amendment to service contract for public safety youth programming with Youth Against Violence, Inc., to provide $20,000 from the general fund for fiscal year 2025 for the purpose of funding a scholarship program for the surviving minor children of city employees who suffer an in-service death. And Ms. Jordan and Ms. Hampton and Ms. Callen, all of them are listed here. We'll go with Ms. Jordan first.
Sure, this should be just a pretty straightforward request to provide the additional $20,000 under our current Youth Against Violence, Inc. agreement for services. This would be a one-time addition for the purposes stated in the agenda item.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hampton, you have anything to add?
Only thing I would add was that once the transfer is made, the responsibility will be to the chief to administer that scholarship fund through Youth Against Violence. So.
Okay. And Dr. Sparks, you have anything to add to this item?
I just appreciate council and the city manager, everybody looking out for people that are going through some hard times. And we could ensure that the family members are being taken care of.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any comments from any council members? All right, I'd like to place this on the consent agenda if it's okay with council. And Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, that about does it for public safety.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. Appreciate that. Moving right along, the next committee is Recreation, Culture, and Tourism Committee, and that is also yours. Councilman
I
Watts.
should have preemptively said something, but I didn't. We have no business tonight under that item.
Thank you, Councilman. The next committee is the Technology Committee that is chaired by Councilwoman Elena Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business under the Technology Committee this evening.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hudson. The next committee is the Transportation Committee, and we will look to our ranking member, which is Councilwoman Nicole Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business this evening.
Thank you, Councilwoman Miller. Next item is other business. Is there anything else that any council member would like to bring up at this time? Or anything you want to get off your chest? Okay. Seeing nothing, moving up onto updates from the city staff, the city attorney, Mr. Dotson.
No business.
Thank you, sir. Staff attorney, Miranda Jordan.
No business, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, thank you.
Thank you. Chief of Police, Dr. Gary Sparks.
No business, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Chief. Finally, the most illustrious city manager there is, Marcia Hampton. Can you tell us?
No business. I think y'all have had enough.
As she lends mercy upon the city council. Thank you. Is there any, at this point on Sprockets, is there anyone left here who would like to make any comments in the audience? It looks like we are empty, thank goodness. All right. Seeing or hearing no other business at this time, this meeting is adjourned.
And all the angels in heaven said, hallelujah, hallelujah.